All right, everyone. Hi there. This is Janko, and this is my third live stream. Brought some music with me today. I'm feeling 80s. I'm a kid of the 80s. So if that's not your vibe, you gotta bear with me, unfortunately, I guess. Right, so what are we going to do? In my last live stream, I presented you my little Miro board that's not quite filled yet. I will just use it as a scratch pad basically to dump everything that I think makes sense to kind of illustrate either my thinking or the resources I used or cool projects by other people, stuff I want to, give a shout out to, people I want to give a shout out to, whatever. It's just a big digital whiteboard. That's how I think of Miro. Actually, I was using it, or I've been using it since the days that it was still called real-time boards. If someone of you still remembers that time, that's how old I am. And so yeah, what are we going to do today? So I put the plan out there. I mean, especially or in general, when setting out to do anything with AI, with Gen AI, that is, it kind of is hard to speak of a plan. I mean, obviously, sometimes you do have a plan. I do have a plan, and it's making my prompting game more systematic, right? But Gen AI is messy, and live streams are even messier. So I cannot guarantee you that the plan is always going to be like materializing right away, but obviously that's what I want to do, what I strive to be doing. I still don't have my live chat thing. I don't understand where it will show up, because there was a comment that I only saw after the fact. And so if I don't respond, should there be anyone that is using the chat, then it's not because I didn't see you. I just don't know how to do it, basically. So the plan is to, I like coding with AI. The new term for that, kind of coined by Andrej Karpathy, is vibe coding. And I put that down here, the link to his X post. And when we read or scan through it, he also mentions, hey, I'm too lazy to, just go ahead. I'm just giving you my ideas. You make it happen. I glance over it. I say, sure, sounds fine. Just go ahead. If you break my code, not that bad. It's throwaway things or it's smaller things. And I can completely understand that sentiment, right? That's also something I like to do. And that's, I think, where his motivation of calling this vibe coding comes from, because it's a vibe. It's just, hey, let's, get going, get shit done. I love that as well. But I love even more if code that already works is not broken by vibing away. Again, a pretty hard combination for German speaker, German non-native English speaker. Vibing away, like the V and the W sounds or vowels. Hard for us, for me at least. So I like to vibe and to be structured, or have a good feeling about, a good confidence that the coding agent is not breaking anything, is doing what I actually want it to do in a somewhat reliable and systematic manner, right? So I'm kind of looking for the best of both worlds, between loosey-goosey vibing and structured programming in a way. So that's the vibing part. How do I want to tackle this? Well, with prompt templates. So a systematic prompt that I would always give for certain tasks to the coding agent. And since I don't like copy and pasting all those prompt templates all the time, I'm looking for smarter ways to kind of feeding the prompt template to a coding agent. And I try to do that, or currently the best way that I've found so far is to use MCP servers, which basically provide tools to the coding agent. And then by doing so, you could just tell them, hey, apply this and that prompt template. Seems to be a complicated word today for me. So that's what we again going to do. I brought some music. This is the playlist that I showed you in the beginning. And why do I keep coming back to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as a kind of like how I frame everything that I'm currently doing? Because I think it's just fitting. I really love the books and the movie, especially. I'm a big movies fan, so I admit to reading the book after I watch the movie, and it's just so cool. Just go check it out. I put a couple of links here, the trailer to the movie, and what I especially like about it that it is filled with those little like weird instructions on how to navigate the galaxy, basically, which is messy, right? And I put two of them down here. For example, the Babelfish. I think everyone basically knows it because there's also a company focusing on translating or providing learning on how to, not to translate, how to learn other languages. And the idea is you put a little fish here in your ear, and it will real time translate between your language and whatever is spoken to you by whoever you encounter in the universe or in the galaxy. And it also focuses heavily around the towel, because the towel is like the most important item you can carry in this messy, weird galaxy, because it can, serve so many purposes. And I just feel like that on a meta level when I use GenAI, especially GenAI coding. The landscape is always changing, like the universe of tools, of models, of whatever is always changing. There's no clear set of instructions on how to actually interact with that GenAI technology. I mean, obviously everyone knows, that it needs to happen through a combination of prompts, but you can also serve images. We can transcribe video and learn from that. We are about to understand video. There are models that already can, basically capture real time what's going around you, and so on. It's really fuzzy in a way, and it feels like hitchhiking, to me at least, in the sense of what Douglas Adams put out there. So I set out to say, hey, let's just put together some form of Hitchhiker's Guide to the GenAI Coding Galaxy. And it's probably going to be compendium as weird as the galaxy, basically, that I'm describing. So I don't think it's going to be an ebook. It's definitely going to be free. It's just it's an invitation of everyone to kind of like contribute along. It's probably going to be some form of a wiki, but I have plans on making it even cooler than a wiki with knowledge graphs and stuff like that. But let's not get caught up in that rabbit hole just yet. And recently I said, hey, I'm coding, so it doesn't actually feel like hitchhiking that much. It feels like hitch coding, right? So you're coding along, you're piggybacking on, or you're co-surfing with your coding agent, basically. So I came up with this alternation, or this version of the title, to not call it the Hitchhiker's Guide, but maybe the Hitch Coder's Guide. It's also what the repo that I'm currently developing on GitHub is called like. And yeah, this basically comes from this comes from the last live stream, right? It's about combining vibe coding with prompt templates and MCP servers. You got a couple of links to the various aspects, or as to entities or resources for the various aspects here. And with that, we'll jump into Cursor. I have to, weirdly, I was on Windsurf much more than on Cursor, especially when it came out, because I really loved it. I still do. For some reason, I'm not stuck, but I'm kind of currently using Cursor more again. Just I think just out of laziness, because some stuff worked for me and I was just feeling too, I don't know, not switchy basically. But I will, because I think Cursor made great strides and great progress, especially in the last, like they have their wave updates. I think they're kind of bundling features that they want to put out in waves. And I think we're at wave 3 now. And I basically stopped at wave 1, I think, because they're really fast with stuff that's coming out. So I'm eager to jump back into Windsurf as well. But currently I'm still in using Cursor. And what you'll see here is, well, what you are seeing here is my code project. The folder is still called server MCP test, but if you'll have a look at, let's make this bigger, at the repo here, it's called MCP hitch code already. Already. It's based on this this MCP server template that Kirill Markin put out. So I'll recommend you checking that out. And yeah, right now, today, I actually started improving my init template. The init template is currently at version 1.1.2. And let me show you, it's probably convoluted, right? I'll say that from the get-go. This is something I want to address in a second step after I address the most important or pressing issue that I'm having. I will tell you what this is in a second. And just maybe as a reference, so we have our prompt, all of our prompt templates. Let me try to zoom in. I'm not sure if that's going to be viewable or if it materializes in the stream or not. I cannot see it actually because there's a lag. So there's in the MCP hitch code directory, there's a templates directory, there's a prompts directory, and then I got my folder for the init prompts. And all the old prompts, the outdated prompts, are basically moved into the archive folder. And the one from the last live stream was version 1.1.1. And this already was involved as well. It's too long, right? I don't like that fact about it. But what I even dislike more is that with all the quality gates and the check for this, you cannot continue before checking this and reaching that milestone. Give me confirmation that you understood, blah blah blah. The coding agent on the right, using that prompt template, just didn't stop after creating the game plan to ask, hey, should I start implementing stage 1 of the game plan now? By which the user could have responded with calling the proceed prompt template. We will get to that probably not today, but maybe. Or it could just say proceed, and then the code agent would automatically call the tool, right? So you have those two basic modes of responding to that question. But the question never came. So I was, for the last iterations, I was trying to get this up and running with a better version of the init template. And I think I succeeded. I tested it only once, so n equals 1, right, as a sample size. So it's not, not reliable yet, but it looks better than before. And how I got there is to actually use the new Claude 3.5 Sonnet thinking model. That's a mouthful. And just asked, hey, what can we improve about the current template, right? And let me just see. This is the testing prompt already, where I tested I always try to create Snake because I just couldn't think of any cooler prompt that yields quick, results. If you can think of a cooler one, then let me know. And hey, I got a first comment, my first comment ever. So my glasses are kind of off. It's Yella. Hey Yella, shouldn't you be working? Just kidding. I'm not even sure what the what the bank holiday situation is with this weird thing we're celebrating in Germany, which is called Carnival or Fasching. But however you manage to do it, maybe you've got time on, maybe you are already taking an early break. Be it as it may, thanks for watching. So this is the snake game, basically. My snake, my checking prompt, basically. But the convo that led to an improved template is this better init one. So for those that are maybe possibly new to Cursor and just started typing away with Cursor, you can always look at your conversation history by clicking that Show Composer History button or using the shortcut that's presented here. And then you can basically see all your convos. You can also rename them or delete them, right? So I jump back to better init, and with the better init, basically, let me see what makes sense to where we can start. Right, basically, so this was, I presented the agent the response that I got from trying out the snake prompt, right? Where the coding agent came back with, hey, I got the timestamp down. I created the game plan document. So game plan materialized. And then let's start by creating the project structure, which I then fed to 3.5 Sonnet thinking. They need to come up with better names. But so I basically asked it, hey, what can we improve, right? So when trying this out, this was the agent's behavior. So clearly it didn't stop. How can we make this, or be absolutely sure that the agent does what we want it to do? And it's been thinking, and I think we had to do this for 2 iterations, but then we exit from the prompt so we can see that in better colors here. And then basically, so it started adding emojis, which I thought was interesting, and obviously new parts to the prompt template. The mandatory confirmation gate. Let's jump there and look for it. Mandatory confirmation gate. So basically, this is what it added, this section here with emojis. And I think this also didn't work for me. Oh, I think that was the one. The last one was the one that did the trick. I think there was a previous iteration. And with that, I basically tested it out with Snake, and we'll actually do that once more. So I'm currently in the Snake Git branch. So let me just check the status real quick. Right, it created the game plan. I will just to good housekeeping rules, we'll do a clean here. We go back to our main branch. We'll delete the throwaway snake branch. Hey, nice. Yella just responded that he's actually watching the stream for the first time. So thanks. I think Yella was one of my, probably the first respondent or viewer that actually reached out to me through comments and kind of interacted with me, which, I mean, if you're doing this, I'm speaking into the void here. I'm speaking into like a little camera thing here on my MacBook. So there's a complete disconnect with the world, basically, right? And if the world takes the time to kind of respond or reach out, that's really heartfelt, especially when starting out like I'm doing. So Yella, you'll be forever engraved as basically the first fan of the channel. So thanks. Right, so we delete the snake branch and create it right afterwards, or check it out by create it and check it out. So moving there basically by running the prompt. Let me just double check if I really am running and building the most recent version of the server, which has the new prompt template by running this Docker command. If you're interested in all of that stuff and learning about that stuff, then basically just let me know in the comments, right? I need to strike a balance between, I think there are developers out there who are quite far already, for whom I might bring something to the table as well. And there are also, I think, people just starting out. And I can feel you, like this group, I can feel you quite well, because I remember how hard it was to start out, because there's so many moving parts. Like, what's Docker, what's Composer, what's Cursor, which model are you talking about, and how do I put that on GitHub, and how do I host this stuff on Heroku or Railway for making it accessible to others, and how is that authentication game working? Stuff like that, right? So I feel you. So don't be shy to reach out to say, hey, could you maybe explain this and that part in a bit more detail? So what we did now is to actually start the server. The server is exposing tools. Tools are basically like skills that we can give to our code agents. In this case, it's one of the Claude models that I'm using through my so-called IDE, Cursor, Integrated Development Environment. That's what IDE stands for. It's basically my control terminal for interacting with the AI and coding and doing everything related to that. So with the server started and with us being on the Git snake branch, check once more. So we got main and snake, and we can then basically start a new conversation with new composer, new conversation in the composer mode. I think that's how I would frame it, but it just said start a new composer, or they call it start a new composer, right? It's a new interaction in the agentic way, basically. And what we're doing is to copy the snake, create a snake game prompt from our Notion page. This is where this still lives. And I basically I don't say anything else, right? I'm just saying, I'm just submitting, and you will see that my server is going to be called. Conrad there. That's basically probably the second one that reaches out or reached out more than others. I'm so bad at multitasking. I'm just realizing some stuff I'm really good at, but I wanted to give that response back to Conrad. So thanks for watching as well to you, Conrad. Right, so we called our initial prompt template, or my initial prompt template, by not telling basically, or well, we advised the coding agent to do that, but in simple words, right? We just said, hey, use the tool for an initial prompt. That's it. And the code agent figured out in the background, hey, do I have a tool that's related to that? And it figured out, hey, I have this apply prompt initial tool, and I'm gonna call it now. And this is basically the call. And if you click run, and you scroll down, that's how I know that the new prompt template is actually used, because we have this section with the emojis here, right? I might put an initial, the explicit version in there as well. It is explicitly versioned up here. So it's just in the so-called meta information of this markdown document, which is not reflected. Basically, the only thing that's fed back to or exposed to the coding agent is whatever starts in line 18. The other stuff is just meta information. Project is progressing in tiny steps, Conrad. Just it's really too tiny. I have to adjust my glasses or get a bigger screen. It is progressing, but in smaller steps than I would like to, but I always need to find the time to actually work on it while doing other stuff. And the agent is actually responding to our prompt template in a quite verbose way, which is good and bad. Currently it's still needed because I want to make sure that the agent is actually respecting all of our confirmation types and quality gates and reassurance gates, and however we framed this, which is still too long. I mean, this entire prompt template grew well into the 300 lines plus already. I want it to be like 100 lines maybe. So I think there's great how do you say that, opportunity or room for condensing it down. But currently it's not that bad because I can check if it's actually doing the thing I want it to do. And the first thing it wants to do is checking if the game plans directory actually exists, which is the case. And the new, I'm kind of not proud of this, but the previous version, like 1 or 2 iterations back, stopped, and the agent would ask me, hey, what do you want the timestamp for the game plan to be? And I thought, hey, I can actually make this, because the agent obviously doesn't know about time. It doesn't know what time it is, but it can ask. It can ask by calling a terminal command, which is baked into at least Mac OS and Linux. I don't know how the command would be called in Windows land, but something similar, right? So it would just query the most recent date right now. I need to accept that, obviously. Now it knows, hey, this is the timestamp of the current time. It will create the game plan, and it will show up in here in the game plans directory. This is an old one. This is still from February 28th. So this is our new game plan. We'll accept that. And now comes the most important part. The game plan materialized. Try to zoom in again. And now it calls this. It comes back with this, hey, mandatory confirmation required. And that's exactly what I want. I cannot proceed with implementing anything from the game plan until authorized. And what I will do now to test the baked in tool call of the next prompt, which is going to be the proceed prompt, which is living in this directory here, is to just respond with proceed, right? Not with proceed by calling tool proceed or anything like that. And the reason this should work is if we go back to the, sorry, let me clean up here real quick. I just want what we really need to have up here. If what is it? Apply prompt proceed. It's basically instructed here. What's in the it's here where the model is instructed, or the coding agent is instructed to call this tool. If, sorry, it's not the, oh yeah, here it's this entire section. If the user explicitly responds with proceed or any variations, this also came from code. So, God, Claude 3.5 Sonnet thinking to make this a bit more flexible. I just had, if I respond with proceed, then do this. And obviously there are variations to it, to yes, proceed, let's proceed, go ahead, continue. Whenever I type, as a user, type that into the chat, then it will call this, or it should call this tool, right? And this tool basically just would take the proceed prompt template and feed it to as an instruction back to the coding agent, much as we did with calling the initial, the apply prompt initial tool, and thus get the initial prompting template. I feel like I'm making way too many words, but I hope you catch my drift and the gist of it. So here I would just say proceed, because I'm nice. Say proceed, please. And this will trigger, if all goes right, the next tool. It doesn't. Okay, interesting. So then I got my next challenge. So I fixed one challenge or issue and running into the next, because it should actually call this tool. Let's make this explicit for the proceeding prompt template. This should be enough because proceeding prompt is in there and tool. It should be enough to make the model or the coding agent aware that it should call a tool, which it does. It's calling the apply prompt proceed tool, which in turn, once more, so you can piece that together mentally, it materializes by this prompt template being fed back, right? Oh, I need to acknowledge that. You see, this is the entire document basically, or the content of the document that comes back. And here I basically actually only tell the model, hey, look at the game plan, take whatever section or stage is next and just start implementing that, right? And the sections are as follows: project setup, then the core game logic with tasks and with checkboxes basically. So the model and we can track progress basically by seeing, hey, which tasks are actually already completed and which are still open. And let's start implementing stage one. I would just basically from here on, ideally, in an ideal world, no issues would arise, and I would just keep using the proceed prompt. That's the plan. That's the goal. I would just basically always say, hey, continue with until you are basically done with the game plan. And let's just go through it once to see how far we get in actually developing the game. We can basically step through it as that's back to vibe coding. I'm not looking at the code right now. I should, obviously, and I give that recommendation to myself and everyone out there. It's good to stay in the driver's seat, right? It's vibe coding is cool to say, hey, you do what you got to do. I'm not even looking. I'm, calling, taking a coffee break or whatever. In YOLO mode, this would actually be happening, possible. YOLO basically means you don't need to confirm manually, but it's just auto-confirmed. But obviously, it comes with many risks, right? So we got the README that we need to confirm. We got the inits for making our code, turning our code into actual Python modules that we can import. And since we're vibe coding, I just accept all, right? I was just talking about it, so I might as well be doing it. And it comes back with a confirmation that we asked of it by putting it in our prompt template to update the game plan, right? To remind it that it should always update the game plan. It does. It basically fills out the tasks that are completed, the checkboxes for that. It also adds an emoji here, a checkmark emoji for the entire stage. It rewrites some stuff or has some implementation notes, and it would then give me also a git commit message. Just think about it. Yeah, we're still in the git branch, so there's no risk of messing code up because we have our little two branches. So I would just do a git status maybe once more to see what changed. Got the snake game folder or directory and the game plan. Interesting. Why aren't the inits? Let me just have a look. Why aren't the init files already? Snake game. Yeah, maybe that's how Git does it. I'm not probably right. It just said, hey, the entire folder is new, the entire directory. I'm not gonna list out every file that's in it. So that's fine. Git add, git commit, and then we just copy the commit message in there, and we also push it to the remote repo once, because why not? I'm thinking, is that a good idea if I throw away the branch? Yeah, probably. Let's just try. I want to make it available to everyone, so I'd like to push. So we say snake origin, or is it the other way around? Origin snake. I want to push to origin the branch snake. And if we take a look at the repo, then there is a new branch, the snake branch, and this actually contains the snake game subdirectory, right? It's not clean because we're mixing in one repo, we're mixing the code that actually makes the MCP server happen, basically, and testing out the use of the MCP server by creating the game of Snake. Or Snake game, I don't know what that's called. You know what I mean. So this would be that. And then would you like me to proceed with stage 1? I will not only respond with yes, do so, but again with my prompt. Let's just copy it because I'm lazy. This probably takes more time than just typing it out, but nevertheless, I'm too lazy to do that. So we're just doing the same thing that we did for the initial stage, basically, right? We're again saying, hey, yeah, sure, proceed, but proceed in just the way I want you to proceed by calling the proceed template. And we're back to vibe coding, basically. And obviously the dream would be, I'm dreaming of, I think like million other people out there, of having my own Javas in some way or form. And if it's good enough, it will be, when it will be good enough, quality-wise and trust-wise, when I know I can actually do other things while it codes, and that I trust it to kind of get back to me whenever it needs input, he or it. I'm not decided yet if how much of anthropomorphizing is good and needed and useful. I kind of tend to do it a lot, so I usually say he or she and not it, because it feels like a counterpart that's closer to, like interaction wise, it's closer to interacting with humans than with a machine or with some algorithm. So I might as well just hit accept all, right? Because I'm not, as you see, I'm not reading through the code. The code changes. And yeah, that's the dream, right? I go cycling and Jarvis would just report back once he's done, or ask me questions at the right time. And obviously the entire setup needs to facilitate that I can respond to coding aspects just through voice, which is not that easy, because in programming we've got lots of stuff like at and then whatever, or writing function names or function names in particular in Snake case, so with underscores, like game plan underscore feature underscore and so on. It's kind of hard to pick that up or have that be picked up by Gen AI at the moment, but I think this will just be an issue that is there for just some more time. It's solvable, I think. Speaking of solving, we just solved or implemented stage 2. We got the commit message. Do a git add all, git commit, copy in the commit message, and off we go. I'm still not sure if I could only do git push, or if I'm always afraid of overwriting my main branch, because that's what's kind of what it's set to in the background. So I'm better safe than sorry, right? Git push origin snake, and up goes the most recent version. And it asks me, hey, what about stage 3? Are we up for that? And I say, sure. I'm not saying that. Well, let's say that actually. This is Whisper Flow. And I would just voice type by my command, which I always forget. Yes, please proceed by calling the tool for the proceed prompt template. So I voice typed that. It's also something I did more. Now that I'm using prompt templates, I do it less, but just wanted to... Yeah, thanks, Conrad. I think that you know, that vision of voice coding and the model knowing exactly what you mean, also down to a nitty-gritty detail level of class definitions or properties or coding stuff that you would normally have to write quite specifically. I think that's something that will be solved in the future, which, I mean, the future is always feels like the future is nowadays, right? I just think it's so cool to live right now and see all this unfold in real time, basically. So yeah, since I think I'm sure you noticed, but we do the same thing all over, right? We're calling our proceed template. The model reacts just as we want. And let's just see where we are at. Interestingly, the game just popped up. And we're calling it, or we're running it for the first time. We're not done. I didn't even take the time to read through the game plan, but in my initial prompt, I put in that there should be fruits, there should be bombs that appear and all of that stuff. I'm sure it's at least in one of the stages that's still to come, or it's something that we could then basically fire a new init prompt template for as a kind of like an evolution of the game. Maybe we'll get there. This actually works quite better than I had imagined so far. And the crucial part was to have the model or the coding agent stop and ask for confirmation before just running things, right? So I could throw my, hey, call the next tool instruction in there, which is the proceed tool. Kind of hard to think, talk, and act at the same time. But I hope I get better at this as I move along through live stream after live stream. It's actually quite fun. I wouldn't have thought that I'd enjoyed live streaming that much. I would enjoy it even more if I could read all the comments. Let's make that bigger actually on my screen here. Yeah, the good question, Conrad. I'm not gonna type it out or just responding to it. Maybe so. Conrad basically asked, so what's the MCP part doing? What's the good thing that the MCP server brings to the table? And I would just phrase it or answer it like this: if you're cool with vibe coding but want more structure, you're moving pretty, or it's the most natural evolution is basically to use prompt templates. And what I did previously, maybe let's use an old prompt template for then maybe let's actually use some left-right magic here. So we'll put Notion on the left and cursor on the right. So what I did before, instead of saying or instructing the code agent to say, let me find my last voice command. With MCP server, I can fire something like this, a one-liner basically. I just needed to make, to understand, hey, the user wants me to call this tool, which is part of the MCP server or exposed through the MCP server. Hadn't I done that, then I would basically be stuck with doing like literally what I'm doing now. We can actually do that in the next stage if there's any left. Sorry, I need to find the proceed with next stage. So this is how I started off, right? With a, what is it, six liner prompt template. I would just copy this entire thing, go in here, hit paste, and this would be my prompt template applied. And this might be a small thing, right? If you're out there, if you're, oh, it's more one more line. If you're cool with copying, pasting, I mean, there's no issue, right? But that's the thing amongst others that I see at the horizon that I wanted to address with bringing MCP servers into the game, because I just need to type less and copy paste less. Hope this was somewhat of an informative answer. So we tackled stage, what was it? Stage 3 is now complete. Exactly. So stage 3 is complete, and we are copying. Sorry, we are committing. Git push origin snake, and up goes the most recent version of the snake game. And so maybe just to actually do it the old way, basically, the coding agent now asks me, hey, would you like to proceed with stage 4? Stage 4 is better game dynamics, right? The fruit come in, the bombs come into the picture, and so on. And I could do the same thing, or instead of saying, hey, call this tool, I could find my prompt template, the proceed prompt template, which is still at version. Oh, there's something I think off a little with the versioning. It's kind of easy to get out of step between the meta version that you're actually using and the file name. But I could also have just go and copy this entire thing, go back in here, hit paste, and maybe just to be sure that the agent should treat the referenced content basically as an instruction, I would just say use the referenced content as an actual instruction on what to do next. Please. We should get the same result, exactly the same result. That's actually a good test. I have never done that before. Oh, interesting. Now, since that's interesting, so this was actually a really good test. I would go back to say, do not call any tools this time around, please. Because it wanted to call the tool again. And now it doesn't, because I basically explicitly told it not to. But from here on out, it should do the exact same thing as what would have happened had it called the tool. Oh, let me know if you'd like me to start implementing this stage. I'm just, yes, please. I'll drink some water. So you see, it actually did not call any tools, but it did do what I asked it to do in the prompt. For example, you can see that by it responding to my confirmation types or the confirmation stuff. And from here on out, it's just back to vibe coding for this stage, at least. I actually did that snake game thing with my, what is that, godchild? If I'm the godfather, then it's probably my godchild and some other kids and my son. And they were actually blown away. I mean, they're all 11 and 7, 5, and 9, I think. So scattered, but all already in an age, or of an age, that they basically understand what games are and what computers are, and how, you know, this Gen AI thing is also a big part of our family, at least. I'm talking about it a lot with my son and trying to, you know, get him understand what this is, and that you also always need to fact check. He loves the voice mode and talking to ChatGPT with advanced voice, and they were basically really digging that. I mean, they were sitting down and, you know, implementing Snake with me and the AI, and always coming up with new ideas. It was quite fascinating, actually. It's great for, I think it's great for teaching kids to code, and maybe to say that once. I said that in a couple of videos of mine. I'm not pro, hey, the AI will do everything and you can just sit back and not think about coding and not learn how to code anymore. I think quite the opposite is the case. You should still learn it, and there's so many reasons why you should. And the sweet thing though is by combining the both of the worlds, right? Or those two worlds. And I really love that. And this is basically also how I try to teach my son, at least how I think about it. And we finished stage number 4. I accepted all the changes while talking. So vibe coding at its best. We got one more stage and then we're actually done with the first iteration. Maybe to show the progress, maybe let's do the git commit first. Yeah, it's fascinating the times that they grow up in, right? Responding to Conrad's remark of what an awesome childhood they're having. It's crazy. I actually have one more thing to say about this, which I'm not sure if this is just my confirmation bias or actually something that's real, but let's tackle one thing after another and just try to run the game and see if the fruits and the bombs are there. And let's make it a bit bigger. So what's still not snake-like is that the game is over once you reach the end. We can make that a setting if we want it that way or another. So have to concentrate. And the first bomb comes. The second bomb, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted that bombs appear with each fruit that we are consuming at random, that they stay, right? Let's actually hit a bomb in a second here. Let's take this one. And it should, it's gonna be tricky. We should lose parts of our, really bad at playing snake. Yeah, we do. The snake loses one, element with every bomb it eats. And there should be super bombs, obviously, and super fruits coming up next. Those were not part of the initial prompt yet, but those would make for a great game plan for extending the game. And the rest works perfectly. Right? When we developed the game with this group of kids I just talked about, we actually also implemented settings that you could set how easy or hard you want the game to be, how fast the snake should be running. And this is, I'm still of an age, I'm like 19, I was born in 1980 exactly. And so I still played Snake on Nokia phones, if you believe it or not. Yeah, this is great. So now we only need to finalize some stuff. Let me actually exit from that. Would you like me to proceed with stage 5? And I would just go back with, yes, please proceed by calling the proceed tool. Let's see if that will make the code agent call our MCP server again. It does. And maybe while it does its thing and we can vibe code just accept all in vibe code style, let's just open up the cursor setting once more to show you the YOLO setting, which is, where is it? Enable YOLO mode. So it is at features, and then in the, sorry, I cannot scroll when I'm zoomed in the chat and composer section of the features tab, basically, you'll find now I lost it again, here, the YOLO mode. And if you set that, allow the agent, then it would materialize that the agent just blazes through all the things without you asking for confirmation. So every command it wants to execute, whatever that command is going to be pre-approved, if you will, or pre-confirmed, which is cool. But also, I mean, I don't think I need to highlight how also dangerous this could be, because by now the coding agents basically can control your computer, right? So use it with caution, but that's going to be the future once we figured out that how to trust what the model is doing more and more. And yes, I mean, just to touch on that, right? I'm not that naive to say, I mean, there's stuff like, if you remember, or if you might be familiar with SQL injection, so people injecting malicious stuff through SQL statements. The same thing, obviously, is a thing for basically since the first day that this was publicly available, and millions of brains thought about, hey, how can I hack this? I mean, that's the game, right? So we all should be really cautious on how to secure even a mechanism or a framework or something working, how to secure that, because just the fact that it works, it doesn't mean at all that it's not subject to being hacked, or that it works always, especially once it leaves your computer and is hosted in the internet, for example, or on the internet. Never sure about the propositions here. So stage 5 is finalized. Game restart, game over conditions, add a scoring system, polish visuals. So let's have a look at how that looks like. Oh, let's be tidy and do the git commit first. And then we'll run the game. Yeah, it was a banger, right? I think so as well. I still loved, I had the tiny Nokia. Let me just bring that up. I don't even know what it was called. I'm so bad at remembering details. Nokia, tiny Nokia. Actually, let's do something else. Let's use Perplexity for that. If you are not using Perplexity, you're basically missing, you're definitely missing out. Let me rephrase it. You're definitely missing out on a way to do search. I think Perplexity covered what? 90, 95%, 98% of my previous Google searches. I basically only use Google if I really want to confirm something that I'm not, trusting that much with Perplexity. And to not trust Perplexity is actually quite hard, because Perplexity gives you all the citations and sources to it. And the killer feature, though, is that for I think 2 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks now, it cannot only do the pro search, which is already awesome, but reasoning with R1. And as I understand it, this does not mean, that's a question I always get. No, it does not mean that your query and the results are kind of sent to China, because DeepSeek R1 is an open source model and they just run it and host it within their infrastructure. And the coolest thing, or another cool thing, is you can also do or use deep research. I'm not quite sure of how this deep research differs from the deep research which comes from OpenAI, obviously. I just read that the speeds are different and the results differ as well. But basically you get deep research from OpenAI through Perplexity now. And let's just do just to showcase that, do a reasoning with R1. I mean, that's not that hard to reason about the Nokia phone. What was that really tiny Nokia phone called that they put out in around 2001, 2002? No, it was definitely 2001. Let's see. And the cool thing, the cool thing about reasoning with R1 is that you can actually see it think. And the fun thing is, I think what's really interesting is that it starts out always with, okay, the user wants me to do this. And then, okay, so I need to do this. At least once it says, okay, every time, which is kind of like something humans would do. And what was it then? It's the 5010. It's this one I meant. So let's see. That's one thing I don't like. It's hard to, from just clicking at the image, to get back to 8210. I think that's the one I was looking at. But you see that in the text, there's lots of list of Nokia phones, so lots of sources spread or sprinkled in there that you can go and check quite easily. And it's the 8210. Smallest and lightest Nokia to date. Yeah, I think let's be proper citizens here of the information age and actually Google that once. Oops. I didn't want to. How to get rid of Leo? No, this. So yeah, that's the one I had, and I loved it. Yeah, exactly. Polyphonic ringing tones. That was all the rage back then, right? But let's get back to all the rage of 2025. And yeah, it's more polished. That's cool. Let's make this a bit bigger. So I can't make it bigger, I think. And I can zoom in though. So I'm hoping you see that a bit better. Oh, now, wow, we had like changing colors. Woo. That's already an awesome Snake game. Maybe I might get into game creation even more, but I'm so going to suck with anything not 2D. I know that already. But hey, maybe AI will help. This is fun. This is actually quite fun. Like with all the, I mean, I love colors, if you hadn't noticed yet. So this is actually, oh, and we're getting faster. Nice. Which I think was the case in the original Snake game as well. That's awesome. But obviously, I'll stop it here. The most awesome thing is how it was created in a really systematic manner, or in the particular manner that I like. That's the cool thing. You can tweak this with using prompt templates and MCP server. You can tweak it any way you want to develop software, right? And the checkpoints and the quality assurance gates and however you structure that you are seeing in a systematic manner. So nice. Since I still have a bit of time, I will just continue by rerunning things. So actually, the cool thing, let's see how I frame this. So they're basically, let me put this maybe on Miro, so it is there for me to talk about, maybe possibly in the next live stream, and I will do this quick and dirtily with sticky notes. So there's the init prompt template. Let's maybe put this down here. Prompt template types. It's called that. There's the init type. I will talk about a little bit more about what they're actually doing in a second. Actually save some space. There's the proceed. There's the fix general. There's the fix linter. There's the test. And there's the, maybe let's put that in here, the change. Let's spread them all out equally. Ooh, sorry. I should have fixed that or locked that frame. Okay, so this one basically initializes a project or I call it objective, because it's just something you want to do. For example, my next thing that I want to use an init prompt for probably is going to be, hey, make the snake be able to, you know, go through walls basically at the end of the canvas and come back the other way. And let's do the easy ones first. This one is just for proceed with next stage in game plan. Yeah, exactly, Conrad. I think games are quite good because it visualizes things, and I'm totally the visual guy, and I think other people, even they might not realize this yet, we are all so centered around visuals. We need to be able to think about what we're seeing, and especially when it's like more complex stuff. At least that's the case for me. So that's the first thing, and it's also fun, right? So it's visualizing and having fun at the same time. So, and this one obviously is for fixing issues. But the cool thing about this, or the main thing about this, is root cause analysis first. Cause analysis about the issue, and then fix. And this is for general things. Actually, I always use this shade of blue for the top level stuff, and then other colors for downstream stuff. Root cause analysis and then fix, especially for linter errors. And linter errors are usually, not always, but usually just related to changes in the interface. What I mean by that is slight changes between, for example, Python package versions, basically, right? So one thing where this happened all the time, I always forget how to write this. Actually, I'm more a fan of the white sticky notes, so I'm going back to those. Example, llama index. I think that's what the package, how it's written on PyPy, changed substantially between knowledge cutoff and now, right? And the coding agents always were confusing, especially with the imports, especially regarding how to import submodules. Stuff has changed so significantly, and I always ran into linter errors, and that's why I think they're kind of like a special issue type. And obviously test is for doing systematic unit testing. What I mean by that, I need to type systematic unit testing. Systematic here, the most important part about this is, in the past, the code agent would create the unit tester, right? It would then run it. It would run into issues like in 90% of times, which is just completely fine. It would be probably 95 or 99% if I had written the unit test. But then comes the crucial part. Instead of really reasoning in a holistic manner about the entire code base, it just jumped the gun regarding how to fix whatever needs fixing in order for the test to pass. And sometimes this meant like tweaking or destroying the code base in an attempt to make the test work. And basically also having forgotten everything that came before, that our reasoning and our, paradigms and our I'm lacking the words here. Everything we aligned on how we want to implement the code was basically out of the window. It just didn't remember. It just was like micro zooming on, hey, this is the unit test. This is like, I think this is like relevant code parts that have to do with this unit test. Something's not working. I just try this. And you will just watch it and basically see your code base crumble to pieces just by doing something that's actually quite useful to focus on unit testing, right? So I'm just for the record here, I'm all for unit testing, but in a smart way. I'm not that test-driven, that much of a test-driven development guy. I never was, but I obviously see the benefits of clean unit tests, especially because well-written unit tests help the model to basically check itself, right? Because it has some stuff that it can call to and run through to see where potential issues are still are, basically. But for that, the unit tests for me needed to be actually made useful by combining it into this prompt template game, basically. So if you might have noticed that change is the only one left, and change is a bit of like a special thing. And let's actually look at this, because it's just a placeholder template, and I'm not sure I even need it, but let's just look at it. It's much, well, not that much shorter. Wow, it grew. It was actually the only thing it actually should do is to rephrase what the user might input as change requests, which can be a list, right? For example, to make this a bit more, vivid, or that you can actually think of it, reason about it a bit more. Instead of saying, hey, like in an initial prompt, I would say, hey, I want to create the game of Snake. It should have this and these features and so on. And in my mind, change requests are a little bit different, because change requests are really particular changes. And I would, in the past, I would just go and say, hey, I got the following change requests. Make the walls, I don't even know how to phrase that. Make the snake be able to go through walls and come out the other side. And then you might have the second change request and the third change request, and it would just be a list, right, of possibly different, rather small things. If it's a big thing, I would always start with the initial prompt. Also in my head, I would say, hey, this is like a big new chunk of functionality I'm developing. And I'm thinking about if there's like smaller changes that wouldn't, that you would just think about in a different way, and that they might be smaller in scope, so that not every little one change request would entail this entire, hey, we create a game plan for just that one change request, and then basically move really slowly. And it's basically, that's what I'm trying out here, by basically the change prompt template only taking what the user might enter here, rephrases that a little, and then calls the initial the init tool, basically, which applies the init prompt template. Let me find the apply prompt init. Oh, it actually didn't. It might got lost in changes. Let's look at the archive, because there definitely was a here. This was my last basically manual thing, and it was only 73 lines. And as you can see, the required actions is, hey, I want you to analyze the request to identify the core objectives, rephrase that, and then call the tool apply prompt init. So that's what changes, right? It's basically, let's call it game planify a number of small, possibly unrelated changes. So that we just don't need a new game plan for each small thing. That's the reasoning behind it, right? But this one, I actually what I wanna do now is a bigger change. I think it merits an own game plan, just to be sure. And I would just say, please call the init prompt tool with this objective. And it should obviously call our init template, and so we're not using the change template just yet. And maybe it will be thrown out of the window again. I'm not sure. This is like open for discussion or open experimentation. So it should come up with a new game plan for that. It does. It calls the date function once more. Oh, sorry, I'm just reading through it. Yellow, it was you mentioning Snake. It was yeah, good times. But did you already have a smartphone back then? Not a smartphone, a phone, a cell phone. So maybe while we're waiting, Yellow, I'm interested, or I'm eager to hear if I made you jump into the coding world a little bit more with everything we kind of talked about on WhatsApp. And I think you at one point you tried out Cursor, I think, right? Before you basically coded through ChatGPT directly, like in the user interface. I can just encourage everyone out there to actually try it out. I mean, it has never been that easy to get your feet wet and your hands dirty. That's the cool thing. Getting your feet wet just means trying something out with little or no knowledge and actually getting somewhere. And then while getting somewhere, you're kind of exposed to an IDE, using an IDE, installing Python, and like the first things you need to grok and to understand if you really are serious about this. And it's this cool thing. It does not require you to read like 3 books and study for 6 months before you can actually create the game of Snake. And that's just awesome. Or create a website, right? To have it move a bit out of the gaming realm here and into something more maybe usable. For example, I want to create my own framework and website that puts out my CV, my profile, in like a website that exactly looks how I want it to look, without having to look for like possibly templates, Jimdo, or all the AI kind of like AI based website build kits that are completely fine and they're cool, right? But they're just not exactly what I want. And we live in times where you can make it exactly like you want, and that's the cool thing about this entire thing. The cool thing about the thing. Okay, I think you know what I mean, hopefully. All right, I actually didn't follow along in the best vibe coding style. Let's clean up a little. So we had this game plan, which was already outdated. We moved that into, before we actually started, we moved that into, this was 1056. This is also outdated. Why didn't I, where did that go? Why isn't it in my, I'm just too stupid to see it. I'm lost. Why am I not seeing? A service. Wait, what's going on here? I might not get it, but I'm completely puzzled at the moment because we are in the completely wrong subdirectory. Because our coding project is below servers. Let me check that and find a quick. Okay, that's actually what happened. That's weird. It created a game plans directory outside of the root directory of our package project, or server project to be precise. The only way I can think of how this happened is because we were working with lots of // which basically means move one up, which moves up in the directory hierarchy, right? And that it just was a bit confused of where the actual or where the actual project directory is located at. Let me think what the best way is. We're actually starting off new here. Make sure you navigate back to the project root tier before creating any artifacts. So that's a cool thing also. If you, well, you might have implicitly understood it or known beforehand, but you can always go back easily with at least two different ways. One way is to just click into one of your instructions or prompts that's further up the stack and resubmit it. Then everything below would be kind of like forgotten and it would just reset from there. You can also always do that a bit more explicitly by saying, hey, I want this checkpoint to be recreated. So the coding stage before we fired this prompt, right? Which I'm doing the first one. And the connection failed. We try again. We resume. We have internet issues. I'm not sure if I'm still... Interesting. I don't even know if I'm still live streaming. I think so. This might just have been an issue with cursor. Exactly. So now we're moving back into the correct subdirectory of my little servers directory. We call the prompt initial. Sure. Just reading through your comments, Gelle. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to do any discounts yet. Referral stuff. I don't know. But let me read through the second one first. That's true. Like your second command, your second comment. Yes, it unfortunately is part of the truth that when you do not know how you best prompt the model, and I'm not saying that I'm an expert either, right? I'm just trying stuff and basically telling, like using what worked for me and telling about it and stuff like this and live streams like this and my YouTube channel. But I see your point. I mean, if you're completely new to this prompting game, then things might not get you the quality or the result that you actually want, and you might do it really inconsistently. Like you might, because I mean we're just inconsistent creatures, right? We are so bad at doing stuff consistently, always in the same manner. The only thing we actually have going for us is that we can create plans, and this is exactly what I'm doing, right? If I don't write down procedures, like what's that called, SNOPs, standard and I'm lacking the term, like the typical operating procedures in companies, right? I think they are called SNOPs. If you don't do that, then you basically lost. You basically always do it in a slightly different way, or you might forget stuff, and basically doing that or prompting in that way is transferring that inconsistency to the Gen AI world, which in itself is like, I mean, Gen AI, right? It's generative. There's no determinism in there, and that's also what some people tend to forget at times, that this is not deterministic. And the more fuzziness you enter into the game, the more fuzzy the result will be, basically, like in like really simple terms. All right, we're back to vibe coding. The game plan has now been created in the right location. Let me actually delete the old one so I don't forget. Oh, it did that for me. Nice. Well, nice and scary. I mean, this is the scary part, is that I did not confirm that, right? It deleted something on my file system without me confirming it. It's okay now, but this might have been catastrophic in other cases where the model might have thought, hey, I know exactly what to do now, and I know that the user is going to love this. I'm just deleting the entire code base because it's crap anyway, right? Yeah, so good example of why you should always be ideally paying attention to what's happening, which is not what I'm doing right now. I'm vibe coding at its best. Basically, I'm doing vibe coding at its best. SNOP, standard operating procedures. Thanks. So actually, I might have, I was always referring to you as Conrad, but I also see Tamas. I don't know what the right pronunciation is. So if you want to let me know how to address you properly, then just please go ahead. And sorry for mispronouncing your name or switching around names. Yeah, falling into the pit of death. I'm familiar with the, what is that, CKCD kind of comic thing, I think this is referring to, but I cannot tell you. It's definitely, so I don't follow the meme train, let's call it like that much in the Gen AI world. But yeah, I think you're referring to a video from, I'm so bad with names, that's why I need the second brain build. The founder of build.io, was it Steve? I think something, which he does awesome videos. And I think he kind of highlighted this. You're really, enthusiastic about all the stuff that works, and then at some point everything just falls apart, and every new prompt deteriorates the code base and stuff like that. Oh, then if I talked about it in my videos, then it was from him. I remember it now from after like doing a couple of mental iterations which video you're referring to. Actually, okay, this is also something, I don't know if that also happens in YOLO mode, but we get a warning that the agent stopped after 25 tool calls, which, let's actually see if it's actually asked. Can I increase in the chat? I'm asking in the chat, not in the agent mode. Can I increase the number of allowed tool calls in cursor, in the cursor settings? In the cursor settings. Because what just happened is that there's a safety mechanism kind of kicking in to stop at 25 consecutive tool calls. A tool call is anything like calling my tools from my MCP server, but also anything that is, for example, starting the snake game or doing something like this, make deer, running a terminal command is a tool call in the back end at least. And apparently we did manage to align or chain 25 of them consecutively. I would just say, please continue for now. The interesting thing is I really don't know at all where we are at, right? It's mind-blowing, unless we just destroy everything now. But it's mind-blowing that you can code or let code and talk about or do other things while you do so, while doing so. And let's actually check the chat. Interesting. This thing and the agent responding with "yup" is actually coming from my cursor rules. I will show you them in a second. Here's how. Open cursor settings, tool calls, search for tool calls or navigate the AI settings section. Okay, this seems a bit hallucinated, but let's see. If I still have them open. Wow, I need to clean up here. Let's clean up completely. So, can I search in here? I don't think so. Those are my rules, basically. So in the settings in general, I define how I want every model interaction to be like, basically. Your style, for example. Respond like a human dev and a good friend would. I don't need stuff like, oh, certainly, that's a good idea. Because no one would respond like that, right? I just wanted to be a bit sassy with some humor and stuff like that. But I'm getting distracted again. I was looking for the tool call things. Oh, cool. There's so much stuff I haven't even checked out yet. Project rules, which I think is like project specific cursor rules. Probably with a .cursor rules file in your file system or in your project, basically. So let's see, can I search in here? No, I cannot search in here. So maybe I should delegate this to do that after the live stream. This is also all my documentations that I have referenced. It's a really cool feature per se, but it's really hard to maintain. I will get to that in one of my future videos. Terminal. No. I can't find it. This seems like hallucinated, but I cannot search for what it's proposing me here. So let's just continue and actually bring up maybe the game plan once more. The not archived one. This one can also move into archive. Yeah, why not? It's not the one we need. The most recent one is this one. And we have one stage left. Let me check directory structure and run the game correctly. So, okay, we failed of running the game, I think. Which is... Okay, some import stuff issues. I shouldn't have jinxed it. Said, unless we destroy the code base. This... Oh boy, I haven't paid attention to if this actually was like this before. So we have a duplicate. I just noticed that we have a possible duplication or nestedness, 2 folders with the name of snake_game. Please check the overall structure first before proposing anything more. It's a really bad voice prompt, but that's what I mean with voice typing _game. Obviously it didn't pick up. You can actually reference this. I just noticed we have a nestedness. It's not a possible nestedness. Well, it is. Possibly it's meant like that, but I don't think so. Have a nestedness within snake game. Please check the overall structure first before proposing any more changes regarding fixing import statements. So this is like a intervention that is not planned, and it's also good that it happened on live stream because it shows you that you cannot basically do what I just did in taking a backseat, basically, or taking making yourself comfortable in the passenger seat and not being in the driver's seat and following along. More regarding fixing import statements. I would also go ahead and copy the linter message I noticed this through the following linter message. Because this stuff did work before, right? I think at least. But I cannot tell you because I didn't pay attention. So, also a cool thing, I think they changed that a couple of months ago. You don't need to stop in order to intervene, right? You can intervene right away by just typing what you want the intervention to be and just hit enter. And whatever it was doing, it would interrupt it being the code agent and look at your code. Good thing is that we have everything Git committed properly, right? So we can always jump back to an older state that worked through Git, right? And we are not relying only on the convo and the internal checkpoint features that Cursor basically implemented. Yeah, it's probably true that at some point there is a pit of death. The question is exactly how far into derailing land you go until you notice it and are able to fix it, either with your own brain, carbon meatbag style, or silicon style with the aid of AI, doing stuff really consistently, hopefully. The project structure is quite nested. Got snake game. Wow, got even a third layer. Interesting. It's causing input confusion. Check the Python path to understand. Yeah, this is actually so bad that I would... It's a great example. You could obviously just go down this rabbit hole of saying, okay, you identified it, just go ahead and fix it now. But I have the feeling that we'll make things worse. That's lessons learned from coding with AI. So what I would do is to actually copy this entire statement here, actually start a complete new conversation. So my last prompt, that is, my intervention prompt, start a complete new conversation, start a complete new composer. You can do that with, just to be sure, with Command R, and also not referencing anything. And we'll start out with what's the easiest way to copy this? I want to call this tool. I want to start out with a proper init prompt. This is my objective, basically, the fix, and we want to fix it. I would have also called, no, let's actually call, we have a serious issue. Let's use the fix prompt template. Actually, we have a serious issue that calls for a proper root cause analysis. It's actually better to do it that way. Call the tool, I'm just making it really explicit now. Apply prompt fix general. Let me check if it was really called that way. So all my tools are defined in the servers.py file. I'm looking for, it's just called fix. Apply prompt fix. I just noticed that we have a nestedness within blah blah blah. Check it. I noticed that through the following message, and I had one other thing I wanted to bring in here. Oh yeah, check the game plan. This issue arose while trying to implement this game plan. And what is it called? 1153. That's the one. And off we go. Actually perfect that this happened. I jinxed it basically. And now we have a chance to see the root cause analysis and fix prompt template in action. Hopefully we don't. Well, it might do a check first and then call it. Yeah, it's calling it now. Maybe not that ideal, because in the prompt template, I'm asking it to do a thorough, root cause analysis, check the entire code base, have a holistic view on what might be causing the issue. And it went through analyzing a bunch of stuff before actually calling that tool, and thus getting access to the prompt template. But it should work nonetheless. Well, let's just try it out. I actually didn't try it out yet with the MCP, since we trying to use MCP servers. And it should come back with some form of root cause analysis. It definitely has lots of confirmation types. Yeah, obviously this can also be improved, right? To tell the model, hey, do root cause analysis, possibly even persist that root cause analysis in a markdown file, so we can actually come back to it later. What's the proposed solution? Move all files from snake game to just snake game. I think that definitely makes sense. Update import statements to reflect the new structure also makes sense. Remove the empty nested directories. Yes. Let's just try. I mean, we cannot break anything really, because we have everything nicely committed to Git and to GitHub. Yeah, let's just do another round of vibe coding. This time, hopefully, me following along a bit more while still responding to your comments. Exactly. So overseeing and guiding the AI is definitely crucial. I mean, that's just the perfect example of what just happened. Yeah, staying in the driver's seat. That's just my, I don't know, using the word game plan, like the entire day is probably thing I do. And staying in the driver's seat, right? Because it's, I don't know, it just speaks to me. Those metaphors, basically. And while we're doing that, actually, it's Steve from Builder.io. I'm sure of that by now. My brain had some time to search. I find it so important, and so I enjoy giving shouts out to other creators out there that I learn from. It's so cool that we can learn through YouTube, blog posts, podcast episodes and whatnot. And Steve Builder.io, this guy, that's Steve. And what was it called? The Pit of Death. Let's see if here it is. That's the video I was referring to. That's the Pit of Death, right? The more prompts you fire in a Wild Western style, inconsistently, without prompt templates, you will just approach this cliff and then just fall down. Basically, that's what he perfectly described in really great words, I think. So let's get back to it. The cool thing is that it's doing that stuff like that, right? Let's not tackle everything at once. Let's test things out. For example, creating a little test imports statement and then seeing if everything actually works before doing it for the entire code base. It's exactly the stuff I wanted to do through composing the right prompt templates, right? Obviously, I might not be that great with phrasing it, but I'm progressing slowly. And this is, again, we hit the 25 tool calls limitation. Also something that I thought of, another shout out to a guy that I can also, whose name I cannot remember, is the guy behind the Fabric. It's him. Unsupervised learning. Let's see. to get to the name. Unsupervised learning. Daniel Miesler. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. He has one video out where he kind of puts together everything. It's an entire system, and Fabric is just one component of that. And Fabric basically is prompt templates, if you will, and possibly even much better than how I do it. So I need to definitely get into it. It's on my list for at least a year now. This video came out introducing Fabric. Let's actually put that on Miro.
Hey, what's up? My name's Daniel.
So I don't forget.
I'm super excited to share with you a new AI project I've just created called Fabric.
Sorry, I'll stop his video in a minute, in a second, because it's still playing.
Ever since the beginning of 2023, we've had...
Stop it now, please. And we might have his GitHub. Yeah, it's here. And I will make sure to find the video that I was just talking about, where he kind of details how all his components fit together to create just an awesome system. It's so cool. Yeah, Jelle, I can totally feel you. It's hard to be in the driver's seat or to actually know what to do in the driver's seat. That's what I'm saying. It's not enough to just learn how to prompt an AI model. It's also still relevant to learn how to code and then meet in the middle, right? And one thing I like to do is to let the AI explain new stuff that I, for example, design patterns or how certain things in Python work. That stuff that's new to me, right? And you can, it's just a never-ending path of learning, basically. So let's see. Perfect. Snake game class already a wrap position around it. Blah blah blah. Already using the wrap position. Gamebot. So we actually, it feels like it thinks we're already done with getting rid of the nestedness. We actually are. Cool. I didn't even follow it that closely, but as you can see, we now have the nestedness is gone. So there is one folder snake game. There's no other snake game folder nested inside of it. So the model is already back at actually implementing the game, which is cool in one sense and not so cool in another sense, because I wanted to look at the game plan, which is also a perfect example of now I would kick in with use the tool for the proceed prompt template, please. Which now it's interesting to see if it checks or if it understands that there is a partly implemented game plan already. It doesn't, so I'm stopping it here. Pay explicit attention to the existing game plan that is partly implemented. That's actually something I have in my fix prompt templates to kind of give the model or the agent agency in the truest sense to decide if this is an issue that's actually related to a game plan that already exists, and thus that it should just add a section or a stage, and we call it stages obviously, in our game plan to that existing game plan, or if it should rather create a new game plan with the timestamping stuff and so on. So let's see. So it does look at it. It just didn't really. I don't see any. Hey, I'm looking at the content tool calls here, but okay, we'll just trust at this point, right? It's still only a toy example, but I like all the issues that we're running into, or all the things that are happening, because those are. Oh, I should have accepted before all the changes before running the tool probably. Let's run the edge cases. It's using unit tests and not high test. This is also something I need to codify in the cursor rules or in the prompt template. Yeah, good point. What are the actual options once you run into issues? I would agree that you definitely at least have those. Yeah, good thing to think about. It's also would be a good video. So what do you actually do when things go wrong? And you might not want to use, for example, tool or prompt templates or MCP servers. What's the best one? So maybe when I'm really engaged in the code, so I'm really in the driver's seat, actually reading, trying to understand each line, then it's easy to spot things that you do not want to accept, right? And I think probably, like this is like shooting, in German we say shooting from your hip basically. So it's really just answered immediately, right? I need to think about it a bit more, but I would say if you have the chance to catch things that you say, I'm not gonna accept this, then you probably should not accept it. Because everything, if you don't do that, then you just move the problem into the future. And in the future, other components might like cling to the initial issue and make it worse. Let me just fire the commit here really quickly. So probably if you have the chance to, because you're completely engaged, then I would go with option 1, probably. The one that is closest to my reality is probably that I accept it, and if I'm somewhat in the driver's seat, I would, and I spot that things went south at some point, I would basically spot where it happened and jump back without using Git. And jumping back to Git, to previous Git commit. So this would then be option 3 basically, and option 2 to actually use Git to revert to a previous commit. I actually didn't do that, or had to do that often yet. Maybe, I don't know, 3 times in the last 8 weeks or so. But I think it heavily depends on how engaged you are in the entire process. So here, for example, I've been not engaged at all, basically. I was at least in phases in pure vibe coding mode. And as you see, stuff went south. And I actually try to fix it now with spotting where it went wrong and what went wrong without Git reverting or Git. I always confuse Git reset, Git revert, and all that stuff. Jumping back to previous Git commits, basically, right? But I might have to do that if things will not work out, right? So it completes all stages, and then it completed all stages, and then I would just ask, please run the game. Yes, Jelle, I do plan on having a stream schedule because as I said, I wouldn't have thought that I liked it that much. It was just something I wanted to try out, but I actually can see this happening almost on a daily basis. It definitely. Oh, sorry, something is still playing in the background.
Germany's Ben Bomer. His debut Deep Edition last year was one of the most streamed ever.
Yeah, interesting. It's because we moved to a different playlist. It's actually find another one. You still need to. You're stuck with 80s synth vibe stuff. Sorry. And let's just choose one other one. I just love the 80s. Parts of that. Yeah, so back to the stream schedule. I see that at least happening 3 times a week. I just need to. Currently, I'm actually doing stuff that I need for work as well, as odd as this might seem. So it's not time that I spend not working, basically. I have a pretty big issue, a coding issue that's related to Streamlit and asynchronous. Oh, actually, sorry, I got caught up in So this works now, right? It's not hitting the wall anymore, or hitting the wall does not result in the game being game over or done, which is exactly what we wanted to do. There is still bombs. Yep. So everything still works, and we added our new feature. That's exactly what we wanted to do. And we ran into issues while doing so, and we were able to fix it with one of the options that we just talked about, which is not take out the bazooka and do it through Git, which would obviously destroy lots of the stuff that might be already have moved us to in the right direction here of implementing that new feature. And but while I need to not that good in multitasking. I need to close that. To come back to your question, Jelle. So I think it makes sense at least 3 times a week that I live stream about something that I need to do anyway while working. I have this like special job that allows me to actually consider this working. But I might not guarantee it. So I probably will start out with 2 to 3 times a week, see how this is going. It's probably going to be, unfortunately, in business hours or during business hours, because I cannot guarantee that I find a time in after hours, but maybe it's a split. I also want to tailor to people that might be watching in the United States that are obviously on a different time schedule. So yeah, we'll see. But definitely have that planned. Cool. So now we basically we added features. We created the game and then used the init prompt template to add a feature going through walls. We ran into issues. We used the fix prompt template, this one here, which does the root cause analysis. That's the crucial part, right? Because I'm asking it, hey, check everything, check the entire code base, actually think through the root cause or root causes, plural, of that might have produced this issue, and then holistically think about how to tackle that. And once you've done that, create a game plan for what you want to do next, right? So we're back to the game plan thing, and that works well. It doesn't work perfectly, and you've seen that in parts today, right? So this is not a silver bullet, and this is also not the shortcut to not needing to program. This is just some guardrails that we put on some, in German we have the Stützräder. So if a kid wants to learn how to ride the bike, then we put, what did I call it in? Should always have Google Translate open. Stützräder. Support wheels, right? So also, I so much love how people like the Primogen and so on are able to do memes like real time. I'm not there yet, but kid with support wheels. No, sorry, I was just having an idea, but I thought it was not a good one. So I'll just copy that one. It's the fitting image, I think. I mean, it's one metaphor, right? You got the kid on a bike. If you don't give him any guardrails or support wheels, you don't know what's happening, right? Hopefully it will just run into a trash can, but yeah, there might be worse things apart from it running on the streets. I don't want to go there. But so it just makes sense to find the right support mechanisms that don't control the kid. Because then, I mean, the kid needs to be the kid. That's a cool thing. It's your kid. You wanted to, it or him or her take his or her own lacking the word here. Decisions. Sorry. Because that's part of the magic. That's part of what makes him your son, your child, your daughter, whatever. But you want to guide him or her a little. That's how I look at the Gen AI coding thing. And also, just combining stuff that works well aware that stuff that works today might be outdated in like 6 months or 9 months or 12 months because it will be fixed and we might have coding Javas or whatever. But right now we're still stuck with what need to deal with what we're having. And what I'm trying to create with this prompt template and MCP server style seems to work for me. So that's why I really like it. And yeah, I think I will leave it at that for today. As I said in the very beginning, I'll try to put all of the stuff that I basically talk about in here. Also, when I get to it in the video description, obviously, you can take a look into the video description has a couple of links also to the Git repo where all of the stuff that makes up the MCP server and also the snake game as it is right now. Oh, I forgot. Did I push? Yeah, I pushed. So it should have the most recent stage here or code state. And yeah, thanks a lot to Jelle. And I still don't know if it's Tamas or Konrad. Be it as it may, the two that have been seemingly watching in real time. Thanks a lot. This was a lot of fun. Also the first time actually interacting with viewers of the live stream. And hope to catch you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.